Good evening and welcome, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about a kind of interesting topic. It's called emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is something that has probably been around for a very long time, but it's only recently that we have come up with a terminology to discuss it. And it's kind of a how do I put it? A topic with many layers, and I believe that as I'm trying to go over this material with you, I am by no means an expert in it. I am a student as well and learning, so I invite you to join me as we learn about this topic together. And so I'm sure that we're all familiar with a concept called IQ, which is a measure of how intelligent or how smart a person is. But as time has gone on and they've done numerous studies, they've come to see that it's not necessarily the people that are the smartest or, the most what we consider genius that are necessarily the most successful. Because there's this other element that is harder to measure in some ways, but it really determines how successful you'll be, in school, in maybe not so much in school, but definitely when you go into work or where you have to work with teams or where you have to work with people, which is so many situations that we find ourselves in. Um, so we're gonna start with a little, let's see, a, a quick exercise. Um, I have up a chart here of various emotions. I didn't get all the emotions, but I just got a sample. Um, please, you can drop in the chat really quickly. I don't know if I'll be able to see it, but drop in the chat. How are you feeling right now? We'll just take a short little poll to see how everyone is feeling right now. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna assume that everybody, and it's kind of hard with doing the presentation because I can't see people's faces, but I have one for interested. Okay, so I'm gonna try it a different way because I didn't get that many responses yet from the chat. So the easier way we're gonna do it is I'm gonna read them, and if this emotion matches how you're feeling right now, you can do a thumbs up or you can do a thumbs down if it doesn't match. Okay? So if you are angry, can I see a thumbs up? Okay? I got one response from here. Um, Bored, confident. Let's see, did I get any? Okay, I got a thumbs up for confident. Okay, so we have one interested, two for confident, confused. Okay, I'm gonna assume that means that nobody's confused. Disappointed, guilty, happy. Okay, got one more vote for happy. Hurts. We already had interested, jealous, nervous. Oh, I did nervous twice. Okay. Anybody scared? No. Satisfied? We just started. Okay. So that was just a quick example to kind of see how we're all feeling right now. Because one of the key ingredients of emotional intelligence is knowing what you are feeling and knowing what your emotions are. And although that seems like a really easy thing to do. For some of us, it can be very challenging. Okay, I got one more vote for tired. Yes, a lot of us are probably very tired, a long day of work and different activities. And some of us, our days are just starting. We maybe just headed out to work or at work. So there's a lot going on. So, yes, part of emotional intelligence is knowing what we're feeling and being able to use that. And so the key aspect of emotional intelligence is that knowing what you feel and being able to control it, as well as understanding what other people around you are feeling at any given time. That's the definition of emotional intelligence. And one of the reasons why emotional intelligence is so hard to control or to have is that the way our brain is structured, this is just a very, very, very brief um, neural overview, is that we have a structure called the amygdala, which is right above the brainstem. And the way the amygdala is supposed to work is it's supposed to be an alarm system for the brain to let us know that we're in crisis or that we can, we need to get ready. So that's what it's really tied to our fight or flight syndrome. And for a lot of people, the emotions that come most readily and most quickly are emotions like fear and anger. And sometimes, if those emotions are not controlled well, they can really get us into trouble or cause us to do things that we're not supposed to. And I don't know how most of you are, but with everything that's going on, it's really easy to be stressed and to be overwhelmed. I remember when I was in grad school, I actually failed a class, which is, it's hard to imagine, but it happened. And I remember that was a very, very stressful time in my life. And I think in that time, it was really hard to control my emotions because everything that I had worked for or I had, strived for to that point seemed to be in doubt. It seemed to be a challenge because, unfortunately, for the class that I failed, it set up a cascade of other things. I wasn't going to be able to complete the program. I wasn't going to be able to graduate. And so I just started thinking, okay, if I don't finish this program, I'm not going to be able to get a job. And if I'm not going to be able to get a job, I am not going to be able to do anything else in life. And so that was a very, very stressful time. It was very hard to make plans. It was very hard to figure out what to do because there was just such an overwhelming feeling of stress and anxiety and disappointment because everything that I worked to up everything I worked on up to this point seemed to have failed. So that is one of the really key things about emotional intelligence is being able to know what you are feeling and be able to operate even under very challenging situations or even under a lot of stress because it's a fact of life that we are going to be challenged and we are going to be stressed. So, what is emotional intelligence? As we said earlier, it's the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and those of the people around you. And this was a definition that was come up with by a person named Daniel Goleman, and he's kind of the the person that's considered the one that kind of codified the whole concept of emotional intelligence. And so, what I was alluding to earlier says that what really differentiates people who are top performers, who are very successful, are those who are really good at emotional intelligence. And there's some characteristics of emotionally intelligent people. We're going to come back to that later. And so there are some key components of emotional intelligence. The it's having some key skills. The key skills of emotional intelligence are being able to manage yourself, right? Because if you have, we all have emotions, we all have feelings, but do we act on the first emotion that we feel? Do we, or are we able to kind of step back and decide, okay, is this an appropriate response for this situation that I'm going through? I think most of us are probably very savvy at this, right? So, if your boss or your superior tells you or gives you an unpleasant assignment or an unpleasant task, you may not be necessarily happy with it, but I I doubt that most of us, start yelling at our boss and saying, all kinds of things that would probably end up getting us in trouble. So to some extent, we all have really, you know, good self-management skills, and we're able to follow through on commitments, and go to work, go to school, whatever we have to do. Okay, so, and then the next key skill in emotional intelligence is self-awareness. So kind of knowing ourself and knowing what 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 really, what are the emotions that are most common, or what are the scenarios that I often get myself into, and how do I react, and is this what I need to do in this situation? So you have to have that awareness of what's going on in yourself. And the next key skill is social awareness. So one of the really key ingredients to being an emotionally intelligent person is also being able to look at what is going on with those around you, and being able to empathize, and being able to not just um, see people, but to really care about them and understand what they're going through, and recognize their emotions, recognize what's going on with them, even outside of the context that you're dealing with, maybe whether it's a project or work or whatever is going on. And then relationship management is the probably the final layer of having good emotional intelligence, right? So knowing how to maintain relationships. We probably know of some very intelligent and people that we consider kind of successful, but when you look at them, they're not good at maintaining relationships. They don't have people that are close to them or friends. And so a person who's emotionally intelligent will have a good ability to make and keep relationships. They're going to have good communication. And a really key ingredient to relationship management is being able to manage conflicts, which are a very natural part of life, but it can be very challenging to manage, if to handle, if it's not done well. And so the good, we kind of talked about this, but emotional intelligence, it affects so many things in our life, right? It affects our work. Um, this may not seem as like an obvious one, um, but it also affects our physical health, because if we are, constantly stressed, constantly angry, it starts to show up in our body in various ways. There are some people who, always seem to have some sort of pain or ailment or inconvenience. A lot of times people have, neck pain or back pain or some of these things. And when you look at it, they didn't have an injury or nothing happened, but some of those things are a way of the body manifesting some of those emotions that are being carried around and are not managed well. It also can affect people's mental health. This we know from so many things that we see around us. We know that there are some individuals where something happens and it's something minor, and it just really affects them profoundly, and they're unable to function. And for a lot of people, it leads to sometimes panic attacks or anxiety or depression. Those are all kind of tied to um, an individual's ability to manage their emotions and what's going on around them. It also affects relationships. If you're stressed out and angry all the time, there's no way that's not going to affect the relationships that you have, whether it's your spouse or your children or your friends or your coworkers. So it affects so many different things. And then, of course, your social intelligence in terms of just your ability to continue to move forward and achieve the goals that you have set for yourself. If we aren't able to demonstrate good emotional intelligence, it really can affect us on that trajectory, and it kind of can slow a person down. But there's good news, and it's really encouraging to know that we can develop our emotional intelligence at any age, at any stage of our life. Um, we may not all have had this, this developed from childhood, which is ideal, but at any stage that you said, okay, I want to become better at this, we can do that. And so the first key, and that was, I try to have like a little example of that, but I'm not sure how successful that was, is okay, so the first thing is being able to start with our self management and looking at, okay, what are my emotions? What am I feeling? Um, and it really helps, especially when we're making decisions. Um, they did a study on this man, and he was extremely intelligent, and he just kept losing jobs. Like he would get into these top positions, and
Right.
a few months later, he would lose the job and he would get fired. And so he was sent to therapy to figure out like what was going on. And it had a huge effect on his family and all this stuff. And, his wife was really upset. And so he went to therapy, and the therapist was just amazed because he really was perplexed. He was like, I don't know why I keep losing these jobs. But he wasn't angry about it. He wasn't frustrated. It was as if these series of events that were happening to him affected others more than it affected him. And it turned out that he had had some kind of operation on his brain, and one of the structures that controls your emotion was removed. So he had no emotions. So but he just had a very flat affect. And so that was getting him in trouble when he was at work, because things that were supposed to be urgent or important, he had no way of telling, and people could be angry at him and he didn't even feel it. So one of the first things is being aware of our emotions and knowing what they are, because before we're able to manage them, we have to know what they are. And being able to know what those emotions are and how we're feeling, it helps us in deciding, should I look for a different job? Should I work in a different department? Should I move to a different location? Like knowing our emotions really helps, especially when we have to make whether big decisions or little decisions. The next key ingredient to increasing our emotional intelligence is self awareness. Um, how do you manage stress? And really being able to recognize, okay, what do I do when I'm stressed? Is this effective? What are things that I can do to manage it better? Um, do I avoid tasks, or am I a procrastinator so that I wait till the last minute? And it's kind of interesting for me because I kind of sometimes do very well under stress, and then sometimes it's like, oh, it's too much. But, just really learning what leads to stress and what can I do to reduce the stress or manage my stress better. And then social awareness. Um, there's a very there was a moment that went viral in this election season that we're in, where the the nominee for vice president, was on a stage and he was speaking, and his son just started clapping and was, crying, and he was like really happy for his dad. And a lot of people, you know, made fun of him for having such strong emotions. But it's a good thing because he was just honest with himself. But one of the things that people said later is that the reason why his emotions were so strong was that he wasn't able to really, kind of say, oh, in this situation you're supposed to be very reserved and very quiet. So one of the keys of emotional intelligence is just being able to see what's going on in this particular situation. Um, you know, how are people reacting? Are you really good at reading people's nonverbal cues? Um, this is a very, very challenging one for me. Um, just reading people's body language, right? People may be saying one thing, but their body might be saying something else. So how are you able to read that to manage what's going on? And then being aware of yourself too, and being perceptive about how you use nonverbal communication, because same thing, you may be saying one thing, but your facial expressions may be saying something completely different, and people may be picking up on that. So being able to make sure that what you're communicating with your words, with your face, with your body are consistent. And then this is, as I was going through the notes, one of the strategies they said is being able to use humor and play to relieve stress. Are you able to find a way to make what you're going through um, kind of, you know, be more lighthearted about it, right? And so if you're able to enjoy yourself or remove yourself before you're able to come back and tackle the stress, that can be very helpful. And then another key thing is that, really coming to see conflict as an opportunity for growth and learning. Um, Many of us weren't thought to think of conflict as a good thing, right? And think of it, oh, this is something that shouldn't happen and it's a sign of something that went wrong or something that we did wrong. But really, part of having um, the growth mindset, or just having this idea of becoming a better version of yourself, is that seeing this conflict as, okay, what can we learn from this? What can we do? What can we change? And knowing that after we've gone through the conflict, if we handle it appropriately, it's going to really make our relationship stronger. It's going to bring us closer. But it's only if we actually engage with the conflict. So those are, the really key ingredients to improving our emotional intelligence. And as I said, it's very encouraging to me that it's a skill that can be developed. It's a skill that we can work on, that we can grow in, no matter where we are. And we can look at ourselves and say, okay, am I where I want to be? Am I as emotionally intelligent as I should be, or is this an area that I need to continue to work on? And once we come to that point, we are able to, to grow and to learn. Um, so that's my presentation on emotional intelligence.
Thank you so much. Let's clap for our instructor. Wow, that's amazing and very wonderful topic you have taken there, very calmly delivered and very good points that have been made. By the way, for those of us that I know very many of us we know her very well, but we have to start the meeting quickly. But let me just quickly just mention a few points about our speaker, and that is she's a doctor of physical therapy, and she's happily married and has two wonderful children that she's so proud of. And she's someone that considers herself as a lover of Christ and passionate about missions and discipleship. She's currently the minister in charge of food pantry at Jela, and she's also a key member of this leadership clinic implementation team as the publicity focal point. Thank you very much, Pastor Kemi, for that wonderful presentation. Let's clap for her once again. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate the time you have spent to share that with us. So it's great to be back again, and it's normal for us to have this time to listen to the instructor and then take time to reflect together in different groups. So I'm going to be sharing us into different groups, and would like you to consider this prompt, this topic, this particular prompt. How really, if you look at your circumstances, when you are faced with unexpected situation or uncertainty or difficult circumstances in your workplace or any context you find yourself, how have you been able to undo your emotions? We're going to be taking into groups, and we're going to share this practically and then also reflect on the lecture that have been delivered and discuss this. So I'll share that in the chat. I want us to look at that very much. So when you have been faced with unexpected situation, uncertainty or difficult circumstances in your workplace, she gave some examples during that presentation. So the question is, how have you been able to handle your emotions? So I'm going to divide us into group right now. Just give me. So we're all welcome back.
Now, my
I'm sure we had a nice time and sharing amongst ourselves what this emotional intelligence is all about and how to handle our emotions in difficult circumstances, uncertain situations, and unexpected situations. So I would like us to have volunteers from one from each group to share with us what were the key points that we need to share with others that we have learned in our different groups. So starting from group one, anyone from group one?
Yeah, I think we were group one,
Okay.
and I think what came out of our conversation was, let don't let our emotions manage us. We should be able to manage our emotions. There are a lot of things that nature can actually take care of if we are allowed to step away from situations when they come. If your emotions take over your life, then you're going to make a lot of mistakes and misjudge a lot of situations. So that's one point. I think the other point we also raised was that, it's very difficult to control our emotions sometimes, especially when somebody's out there trying to get under your skin. But I think if you find a way to understand that every action that you have to do has to be based on having adequate information about it before you react, then you will be in a better situation to manage your emotions and also take time off before you react to any situation.
Thank you so much, sir. Those are very valid points. And yeah, because of time, let's have someone from group 2 or any group that is ready. Anyone from any other group that is ready?
Well, in my own group, how do we handle it? We said there's no particular way and manner. There's no set standards. And it depends on the situation. Again, what we said was that when circumstances arise, that's when our trainings will kick in. The principles we learn from church, the upbringings we have from home, the principles we learn from doing house fellowships and group activities. That's why you fellowship, because you get various training from various quarters. We did agree that sometimes it's easier to say it than to practice it, but that is why you pray that when such events and circumstances come, you will pray for the ability to persevere, because you don't know what the enemy is going to throw at you. Again, so our conclusion was learn to be patient, learn to understand people, and learn to understand yourselves. Because when you know yourself, I think that's one of the main things. When you know the kind of person you are, you learn how to handle situations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Those are very practical and realistic contribution. And thank you so much. Let's have one or two more contributions before we close. And another group, please keep them coming, please. Yeah.
So what we discussed in our group is like, for example, it's easy to say that there's not going to be pressure, that I'm not going to be under pressure. Pressure is going to come. Take, for example, you are in a company. There are some bosses whereby if he's under pressure, automatically you guys under him, you have to be under pressure as well. And with that, emotions rise. So it is now left for us to ensure that no matter the situation, I'm going to take it easy. I'm not going to be under high stress, because if you're under unnecessary stress, if you're under pressure, high stress comes in. With that, you make errors, you make mistakes, you don't get things right. Take it easy, take a deep breath, plan appropriately, and delegation as well, because when you delegate, it eases things out, and just go into a relaxed mood somehow, and you get things done. Praise the Lord.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing something from the workplace as well. And those are very valid things. When you have some kind of transferred, emotions, negative emotions from people above you or around you, how do you handle it? Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we can take two more. Another person from another group.
In our group, we mentioned about being quiet, when such things are happening, especially at work. Not to confront anything until, just be calm. And we also mentioned about, your own private time, you take it to God in prayer. And to also learn that somebody brought up the issue of, sometimes it's good for us to confront the person. And we said, when you confront at that time, the person might not even want to listen to you or whatever. So it's better to not confront, just go, most time work on yourself, and eventually things will come around that the person will understand, and then things will be mended or, settled. But when that case is on, we don't believe we should confront the person. So we just believe that there is something about being quiet, silence, that's the word. There's something about silence that brings about, is a greater word than in such situation than that particular, than you speaking or confronting the person. That's all.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's a good one as well, and something to learn from there as well. Let's take one more contribution before we round up.
Aswalaji, my hand is up. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
yes, sir. Seriously, please go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, first of all, I want to commend the instructor tonight for a job well done. I mean, the presentation was very, very awesome and very professional. Thank you, Pastor Kemi. Now, I just want to mention that it's at the level of emotional intelligence that we are able to gauge somebody's maturity. And what helps is for us to improve our communication skills, particularly in the area of interpersonal communication. When you are angry, the Bible allows you to be angry, but the Bible does not allow you to commit sin when you are angry. That's why you put into practice the biblical injunctions that we learn. Be quick to hear, but slow to speak. And when you want to talk to somebody, whether at work, at church, at home, try and get your own mind how that person will receive it before you open your mouth to begin to vent your anger. That's very important because everybody has a level of madness or anger in him or her when the buttons are pushed. So for you as a Christian leader, or for you as a leader in your place of work, with your co-workers, your colleagues, and everything, always make sure that measure your thoughts, gauge your responses properly, and try as much as possible not to use your words as a weapon. And that's going to make us grow emotionally. And that's going to help us a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for that contribution and also bringing in the biblical perspective to what it means to handle our emotions. Thank you so much, sir. I believe we really, really spent time today to learn something that we can apply. I love what someone said, that sometimes these things are easier said than done. And I know someone acknowledged the fact that we also need to pray for grace. As believers, that most of us, if not all of us here are, I believe we are all here believers, we know that we need to depend on grace to do a lot. And I know one of the things that the speaker said is that conflict do arise. How do we gain positively out of those conflicts? And how do we handle them in the midst of them? When those conflicts arises, how do we respond? How do we handle them? And what do we gain after the conflict or after those circumstances that are difficult when they come upon us? As believers, my own prayer is that God will grant us grace to do what he expects us to do at every time. And like Pastor said, God will grant us grace to keep us from allowing our emotions to lead us to sin. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Thank you very much for being with us here tonight. Always a pleasure to have all of you around. And I believe some didn't come today because we've been out for like over 90 days and for something very necessary, to study the Word of God. To read the Word of God, which we really benefited from. So we're looking forward to you being part of the 5th class. To remind us, we have 6 classes. So today is our 4th class. We have the 5th class coming up next month. Next month, October 18th, the 3rd Wednesday. And that is October 16th, the other. Wednesday, 16th October, same time at 7 p.m. And next month, we're going to be discussing about influencing without authority. It sounds funny. Influencing without authority. So this is one area that also we need to learn as leaders, because we all may not be the one that will be the arrowhead in a particular group or team. But how can you also be an influencer? How can you also influence without necessarily carrying authority with you? Let's come to learn this next month as we gather again. So thank you all for coming today. We really appreciate Pastor Kemi for that wonderfully delivered session on emotional intelligence. Let's clap for her again. And I want to thank every one of you for showing up today. So also I'm thanking you as myself, Bolaji Bakari, being the facilitator today. Sheyi, who is also a co-facilitator, incidentally sent an apology because she's committed. And also Pastor Remy is also working behind the scene to ensure that we have these sessions published. So Sister Kemi is also part of our team, even though she's also the instructor today. So she's wearing a dual hat today. She's also working in the background to ensure that this leadership clinic is a success. Thank you all for showing up today. God bless you. We see you again next month. Bye-bye. Take care.